Can I start?
So hello and welcome.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to this webinar on dissertation. So your dissertation is a chance to show your ability to work independently and put all you have learned into practice. Now, although you have a freedom to choose your own subject matter, it is important that the topic is addressing a unique area of original thought. So help you understand more about the same, I have with me today Dr. Samuel Fasanmi. Now, Mr. Fasanmi is a chartered member of the British Psychological Society and an international member of American Psychological Society. He holds a doctorate degree in industrial and organizational psychology with 12 years of teaching and research experience at various universities. Now, Samuel is also a fellow of the statics of the Royal Statistical Society and a certified data scientist. He's a skilled in teaching statistics, experimental designs, and research methods using modern statistical packages. He's versed in test constructions, psychometrics, and an excellent writing skills. He has won 11 grants, published over 60 publications, including 2 books in a span of 12 years. He's also a well known speaker and newspaper columnist, and in true sense, a master of his craft. So without further ado, let me pass on the mic to him. Sir, the stage is all yours.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you. And I welcome everyone to today's webinar. And let me start by tendering my unreserved apologies for coming late. It was due to situations beyond my control, but I can promise you that I will make up time, to cover the deficiencies, in my teaching. So bear with me. So without wasting much of our time today, we have an important topic to discuss, and I want us to please, Mr. Ashif Kumar, can you please allow me to share my screen from your end so that we can start immediately? I want to
Yes,
share my
you
screen.
can share your
Okay.
screen.
Okay, thank you. But it's not showing that I can share it. It's saying that I cannot share it. It's not allowing me to share it.
Try now, please.
Okay. You can make me the host so that it will be easier for me to share it.
Yeah, you are the host. Go ahead, please.
Uh, I can still share my screen. It's not giving me the option to share. So until I can share, but let me just continue. But it will have been better for me to share my screen so that every one of us will be on the same page. Today we are considering an important topic which is called research topic generation. Research topic generation. Research topic generation. Remember that in our last webinar, we discussed extensively on the concept of a statement, statement of problem. But today we want to move a bit ahead of that. When you are done with gathering your information, you are sure of the problem that you want to solve in the society. You have been able to quantify that problem. You have been able to give that problem a name. You have been able to categorize that variable into whether it is ordinary, whether it is independent or dependent or extraneous or mediating or moderating. Once you are done with all those things, the best thing or the next stage for you is to come up and put together those variables into a topic. But let me quickly say that the concept of research topic is giving a lot of students problem. The reason is that most of our students, if you fail in conceptualizing your problem under the statement of problem, it will be very, very difficult for you to come up with the research topic, because it is the research problem that drives the topic. Remember last week, I mentioned that your topic, is a function of the kind of variable that you have. When you have identified your problem, that problem, you must give it a name that will make it measurable, a name that will make literature to know it, a name that will make literature to understand what you want to do. Once you are able to do that, then the problem of research generation, topic generation, is half solved. And that was the reason why we went with that last week before starting this particular one today. Now, let's move on. What are the deliverables that you have for this module? The deliverables for this module. Number one, at the end of today, these are the things that everyone should be able to do. Number one is that you should be able to generate your research topic. You should be able to have ingredients of research topic. Then we want to consider, you should be able to give us, beside you generating one, you should be able to give us several examples, even in the areas that you are not interested. At least if you see a research topic, you should be able to tell us that research topic, is it good or is it not good? Or what is wrong with it? How can we correct it? You should be able to supervise, a PhD thesis or an MSc thesis or BSc thesis, and we will also go home with a thesis guide. Much of our time, because we have a lot to cover today. We are going Please, can you see my screen from your end? Is there anyone that can see my screen? Okay, now we can start. So now the semantics that we use in research method, in research topic, look at them. Number one is the word relationship. Number two is the word effect. You can see impact or influence. You can see predictors. Now I put it to you. When and how, or let me start with when. When do we use the word relationship? Now, it is not just that you just look at one word and you say, this word, I'm so interested in this word. No, it is not like that. There are reasons, there are several reasons behind the usage of each of these semantics. There are several reasons that are behind it. Number one is the research design. What design do you want to use? If your work is to establish just relationship among variables, then you can go with the word relationship. If it is just to know the relationship, you are not interested in the causality. You are only interested in knowing the relationship among variables. Yes, the word relationship will be good. That is how you can have the likes of relationship between job productivity and turnover intention among so. Then that will be fine. because you only want to establish relationship. When you want to establish relationship, remember that what you want to do is that you want to know whether those variables, whether they have positive relationship, whether they have negative relationship, or whether they don't even have any relationship at all. So if what you want to do is just to establish relationship among variables, then it is okay for you to use the word relationship in your title. But when you use the word effect, the word effect is higher in value and in depth more than the word relationship. You don't just use the word effect and you go to the hypothesis generation. What you are doing is that you are testing relationship among variables. That would be wrong. So when you want to use the word effect, you must have known that you want to establish causality. You want to establish that variable A actually caused or will cause a change in variable B, or variable B will cause a change in variable C. You are sure of the causality. That is the reason why you are using the word effect. It also means that most of the time, what you want to perform is an experimental study most of the time. When you use the word effect is the strongest semantic used in generating research topic. Is the strongest. It means that you have enough backing to say that there is causality or there will be causality among those variables. So causality attracts the word effect. The word effect is very, very strong that we need to work around it. We need to know that you don't just use it anyhow. It is not relationship, it is more than relationship. It also means that you are not carrying out a survey. What you are doing in essence is that you are performing an experiment. So if you say you want to, if there's a topic that says effect of let's say procedural justice on job performance among so, in that situation, it would have been better for you when you use that to have a design that is experimental in nature. But if it is not experimental in nature, statistics can as well be used to cover that trap for you. For example, if you use that word effect and yet you use questionnaire, it will not be a bad idea if you use a very strong parametric test, you know, to back it up. So it means that the word effect you have used determines the depth of your research. So it is more than just, you are generating a topic. No, it is more than that. So that means that the word effect is very, very strong. What about the word impact? If you use the word impact or you use the word influence, it it means that what you are doing is you are carrying out a survey. It's a survey. That means once I see that study, I can say that this study is a survey. So it's very easy for me to come into conclusion that this particular study is a survey because what you want to do is just to know the influence of one variable on the other. You want to carry out opinion survey. You want to use a questionnaire. You want to carry out interview. You want to use qualitative method. Even you can still use quantitative method, but know fully well that what you want to do is to know the impact and not the effect. The effect is stronger. So the word impact or influence, they have almost the same weight because what you are doing is just to seek, the opinion of the people. Then you have another one, the word predictor. You must have seen this too, where you have the word predictor. When you use the word predictor, straight away, what you want to do is that two things. There are two things you want to do. Number one thing you want to do is that you want to know whether uh, the independent variable will independently contribute to the dependent variable. That's number one thing you want to do. Maybe you have like 4 independent variables. You want to know whether each of them, the percentage contribution of each of them on the dependent variable, you want to know it. That is independent contribution. Number two that you want to know is that you also want to know whether all those variables join together. Maybe they will have a joint prediction on the dependent variable. So you want to establish two things. You want to know, the independent contribution of each of the independent variables you have selected on the dependent variable. You also want to know whether there will be joint prediction of all the independent variables. on the dependent variable. So most of the time when you see the word predictor, what comes to mind is regression analysis. When I say regression analysis, I do not mean that it has to be multiple regression analysis. No, it is multiple. When the design, when the statistical method, or when those the setting of your work actually have or follow the assumptions for using parametric tests. But if it follows the assumption of non-parametric tests, we always have a non-parametric equivalent of the regression analysis that you can use, and yet you still use the word predictor. So those are the first semantics that we must understand. These semantics, they have something to do with the design. So next time you see a topic or you want to come up with a topic, be mindful of the way you use the word relationship. Be mindful of the way you use the word effect. Be mindful of the way you use the word impact or influence. Be also mindful of the way you use the word prediction. So you have to put into consideration all these explanations that I've just made. Having said that, we can move on to the next slide. Look at the next slide. It's still on semantics. Then I said semantic of research title, and I put nature of variable. The nature of your variable. Now a title must have, when you have a title, that research title must have a dependent variable. Remember last week I explained dependent variable. I explained in details what variables are. So it means that this time around, you must ensure that your title has a dependent variable. As a matter of fact, the dependent variable is the reason why you are carrying out your research. It is the variable that has the center of the research. It is the variable that you want to measure. It is the variable that guides your hypothesis. It is the variable that guides your statement of problem. It is the variable that guides your purpose of study. It is the variable that also guides the scope of your work. It is that variable that has the heart of your work. So that variable must be present in your research title. So when you see a title, the first thing that you look for, if they ask what are you working on, you don't mention that independent variable. No, what you are working on is the dependent variable. That's everything is attached to that dependent variable. So the dependent variable is the core variable you are working on. It has to be in the title. Remember, it's very important. But you need to know that from the word dependent, it means that the dependent variable depends on another variable. So that means that you cannot come up with a topic that will have only the dependent variable. You'll be making a mistake. It will not make any sense at all. It will not make any research sense. It means that in that research topic, there must be another variable called independent variable. It means that the two variables must be present. Independent variable, at least one independent variable. It means that a title must have at least one dependent variable and one independent variable. But let me quickly add this. At your level, if you are carrying out a research for your doctorate program in business administration, two variables will not be enough. It will not be enough for you to have only one dependent variable and one independent variable. No, it will be too small. So that means that because the problem, it will be very narrow. What you want to solve will be very, very narrow. So we always encourage that you have at least, even if you are going to have only one dependent variable, you must have at least more than one independent variable. So it's very key that you know the variables that actually trigger or that cause changes, in the dependent variable. So those are the independent variable, and it really matters that, you work on it. And I know that it's doable based on the explanation that I did last week. So then you also have other variables. What are the other variables that you can have? Now, when you have dependent and independent, definitely you discover that extraneous variables, you don't need them. You don't they are not supposed to be mentioned. But in some circumstances, you can mention your mediating variable or your moderating variable because they are the ones that actually moderate or mediate those variables. But it is not compulsory that you mention them. But the ones that are compulsory that you have to mention in your title, they are the dependent variable followed by the independent variable. Please note this, that you don't just come up with an idea and call that idea a topic. An idea is not a topic. An idea will lead to statement of problem. An idea, from the statement of problem, you raise question. Then from that statement of problem, you must be able to identify variables that you want to work on. When you know your variables, coin those variables into topic. Let's know the one that is dependent variable Let's know the one that is independent variable. When you're able to do that, then your problem is solved. It's partially solved. Then you know you are getting towards the topic. Do not forget, I had explained the semantic of relationship, effect, influence, and all those stuff. Now I am talking about the nature of variable, which is dependent, independent, and others. Let's move to the next slide. Semantic of research title. I mentioned sample in this case. Sample is very, very important in our research title. You must have seen a lot of research titles that will not include sample. That will be very, very wrong. Every research sample must have specific, every research topic must have specific sample that you want to work on. Now, you don't just say you want to know the relationship between job satisfaction and turnover intention. Just say it like that. No, it is wrong. You must be able to tell us that job satisfaction, relationship between job satisfaction and turnover intention among who? Who are the people you want to work on? Don't say among bankers in Iran. That would be very wrong because you cannot cover all the bankers in Iran. So you must mention your sample, not the population. So if you say among middle level managers, you are specific enough. If you say managers, you are still specific. If you say marketers, you are still specific. You have to mention the sample you want to use in your title. It's very key. It's very important. So then I also say narrow your sample down to specific sample. I just mentioned that now. Do not use vague sample. So you have to narrow it down to something that is reasonable. You have to narrow it down to something that is minimal. You have to narrow it down to something that is within the scope of your work. So you have to narrow it down in such a way that it will make a research sense. So you have to narrow it down in such a way that everybody will understand and we know that what you want to do is doable and is achievable. And then the next thing is still on semantic. I said location. In that title, remember you are mindful of the semantic of the words, either relationship, either effect, either prediction. We have done that. You are also mindful of the variables. The variables, they have names already, you have put them, and you are also mindful of the sample that you want to use. The next thing that you have to be mindful of is the location. Where do you want to carry out the study? It must be stated. If you say in Lagos, Nigeria, or if you say in Bradford, United Kingdom, or if you say in Iran, you have to mention a location because it is not just in a space. But let me quickly say this, that you must have seen a lot of research articles on the internet. Yes, research articles are different from thesis title. They are not the same. For example, in some of my articles on the internet, if you check on them, you find out that I use a lot of cliche in order to drive home my point. I can say who is next for the ask. In one of my articles, I know is there one corpus-based journal. I say who is next for the ask before I put my normal variables. I say who is next for the ask, and I'll say procedural justice and so. So, but when you are carrying out a thesis, it is not a research thesis, it is not allowed. You cannot use such you don't have that freedom because you have to be formal. It has to be formally presented. It is unlike journal article. In journal article, you have the freedom to use cliche, but you don't use that when you are carrying out a research article in a university. So it has to be formally stated. It has to be. So having said that, in fact, in some of the journal articles, in fact, some you may not even mention location. But when it comes to thesis, location is very expedient. You have to mention the location. You have to mention the sample. You have to mention the location. So, and I say state the location specifically. Tell us the location. We want to know the location. Where is the study carrying out? Where did you carry it out? We want to know it. So tell us, state it clearly. If I mention the city, if possible. So when you do this, it makes the work easier for the reader to know where the work is being carried out. Then I now came up with this one. It says semantics of research title. It's a number of words. Now look at it. The number of words you want to use. Let me say there is no rule cast in gold when it comes to the number of words. It depends on the university. The university usually have a gold standard for the number of words. I know that some university will insist 25 words will be fine. Some will say it's 22, but it has to be minimal. That it has to be moderate. You have to be moderate with the usage of words. Now, when you are writing, when you are coming up with a research title, remember all those things that I've mentioned. You must also add is that it is not an avenue to display grammatical expression. No, it is not. There are rules for every word that you put there. Every word that you put there has a rule guiding its usage. Rule guiding the wordings of research title. I start with clarity. It must be clear. It must be very, very clear. Everyone reading the title must understand. It must not be ambiguous at all. It has to be very clear. The word clarity there, make it so crisp, make it so clear that everybody will understand what you are saying. So it is not an avenue to use jaw-breaking words or to use a idiomatic expression. No, you can make it simple. What matters is that be mindful of the relationship or the effect or the influence or the impact or the prediction. Be mindful of the way you mention your variable, dependent and independent. Be mindful. Ensure that you put the sample that you want to use, put it there. Then ensure that you consider the location. Then make it so clear and crisp. So the number of words should not be too voluminous. So clarity. Then number two, it has to be non-ambiguous. Make it non-ambiguous. Ambiguity in terms of grammatical expression, in terms of coinage and all those stuff, you have to ensure that you prevent all those things. So everybody that sees the topic should know what the topic is saying or is all about. So it has to be extremely non-ambiguous. It has to be simple. Then I said not an avenue for literary appreciation. It is not an avenue for you to display how wealthy you are in the usage of words. Oh no, it is not that. Then it has to be it depends on the university, but you have to be moderate. Then controversial. Do not use religious words that will cause bias, or use gender issues that will cause bias. No, you have to be mindful of how you state your words. You have to be mindful of how you state every word that you put there in such a way that it will not be biased, it will not be discriminatory. It will also follow the rule of exclusion. So, and inclusion, you have to put that into consideration. Then I said, be mindful of the variables arrangement. This one is very important. This one is key. You have to be mindful of the way you arrange your variables. For example, the dependent variable from the word dependent, it means that is the variable that the researcher is interested in measuring. So if you say, for example, influence of, if you say influence of, let's say, procedural justice on job satisfaction. It is not the same as influence of job satisfaction on procedural justice. They are two different things entirely. So it means that you have to be mindful of the way you structure the words in such a way that it will reflect the role of each of the variable. Let the one that is independent variable, let it reflect the role of independent variable. The one that is dependent variable, let it reflect the role of dependent variable. You have to be mindful of the roles of each of them. It really, really, really matters. Then I also mentioned reflect all the points raised in the previous slide. All the points that we did last week. They are very, very important. So you have to be mindful of them. You have to reflect on them. If you miss that class, you have to get the slide, and I'm very sure you are going to gain a lot from that slide. So having said that, let's move to the next slide. The next slide, example of research titles. Now, can you please come up with some titles and let me read from you? State some titles based on the explanation that I've given now. I've given you how to generate. I've mentioned those ingredients that must be inside the topic. I've mentioned how you must state it. I've mentioned, what you use, the semantics and all those stuff. So, can you come up with at least two so we can analyze it together? I'm waiting, please. Okay, in the absence of contribution, let me move on. So, but I assume that you should know all the, because it matters that we make contributions. So, look at the one that I generated: relationship between personality traits and turnover attention among middle-level managers in Iranian banks. Look at that. Let's start from the word relationship there. It obeys that semantic. And when you use the word relationship, you don't say relationship of. It has to be relationship between. I've seen students putting relationship of. So it has to be relationship. Also note that I did not start with an article like the relationship. It is wrong to say that. So you don't say the influence. You don't say the relationship. You know, when you are writing, you have to be mindful of the usage of that article. You don't start it with the article. You don't say the something, the relationship. No, it is wrong. It will be very wrong of you to say that. So which means that it has to be relationship. I use the word relationship now. And I have how many variables in this? I have only two variables. I have personality traits and I have a turnover attention. So which means that I have two major variables there. And note that I state precisely the sample that I want to use. They are middle level managers and I have enlisted them, in the title. I also use Iranian banks, which means that I put my location. I put my location. So I want to use, more than one bank in Iran. So, and the people that I'm interested, the study will be carried out in Iran, and it will be carried out among the middle level managers. And I have two variables. But in this situation, you notice that I did not mention whether one is dependent or one is independent. The reason is that when you are carrying out a study that is to establish a relationship, the two variables they have equal status. So you don't say one is dependent in this situation because you variable A and variable B, you just want to establish the relationship among them. So this is a unique study. So it's different from the one that one variable will influence the other. This one now, they are not influencing. This one, they are not even influencing. You are only establishing relationship among the two variables. So it's different entirely. So you need to put that into consideration. You need to understand it. Do you know this same topic could have been it could have been this way. You can have a influence of personality traits on turnover attention among middle level managers in Iran. That's a different design entirely. The difference between the one that I said and the one that I'm showing is the design. Why this one is just a correlational study, the other one is not. The other one is telling us that one variable will influence the other variable, which means that it is more than relationship. It is an expo facto design which shows that the variable had already done its part, had already predicted before you started the research. So you can see that the design, triggers the semantics that I use. So in this case, and I want you to know that the semantics really matter. If I see the title, I can decipher immediately that okay, why this one is a relationship, it's talking about it's a correlational study, the other one is not. So we have to understand all these things perfectly. We have to understand them without much ado. So now let's move on with the other one, which is I I want you to ask question. I want you to ask question, interactive section. This is an interactive section. Ask your question so that everybody will be on the same page, so that we understand what so that you can even set your own topic, the one that you have generated, so that I can make my input too. I can help you to look at it, and so on and so forth. So I am waiting for your input. Now, having said that, let me generate like I want to generate 10 research topics for you. 10. So from the 10, I will let it cover different areas and different designs so that everybody will understand. So now let me start with the one that involves prediction. Let's state this. We can have job commitment, job commitment, and rank. Job commitment and rank as predictors, as predictors of turnover intention among bankers, among bankers. Don't say among bankers. Say among among managers, among managers in Zenith Bank, Nigeria. Among bankers in Zenith Bank, Nigeria. Look at the way I frame it. I have two variables that are independent variable. Commitment is an independent variable. Rank is an independent variable. However, the variable of interest in that situation is turnover intention, which is the dependent variable. Then I stated my sample and I stated my location. Look at that. And I use the word prediction. So clearly, it is a regression analysis work. So, but you can see the way I frame it. So it's very straightforward. It's very sweet. Then let me go to another one. Effect of effect of effect of training. Effect of training. Effect of training on effect of training on effect of training on job performance. Effect of training on job performance among selected pilots. Among selected pilots in Qatar. Look at that. Effect of training on job performance among selected pilots in Qatar. Look at that. Or you can even say among the commercial pilots in Qatar. So in that case, you have covered, it shows that it can be an experimental study where you expose some pilot to training and you expose some. You didn't expose some to training. So you have two groups. You have a control group and you have an experimental group. So in that wise, you have the sample is stated and the location is also stated. It's very, very clear. So that is number two. Then, but remember that I use only one variable in this case. I use one dependent variable. I use one independent variable. But if you are coming up with your own research topic, one will be too small. Just like I said, at least make the independent variable more than one. If possible, the dependent variable can be more than one. So it makes it beautiful. It makes the work beautiful for you. Then we can also have, beyond that, we can still have, let me give you another one, another title. Let's say impact. Impact. Let's say impact of job promotion. Impact of job promotion and gender. Impact of job promotion and gender on impact of job promotion and gender on on uh, on job effectiveness of marketers. of job effectiveness of marketer in a in a in a unionized organization in Dubai. Look at that. So in this case now, I've picked my variables and I use the word influence. So you can see. So there's several examples. When you see these examples, I've given you the rules behind how to choose, each of the topic. So it is not just that you just sit down at the corner of your room and come up with something. No, it doesn't work that way. It works in such a manner that you have to follow those rules that are necessary. Follow those rules that are necessary, like I've stated in these examples. When if you're able to follow the rules, I'm sure that you know it's not going to be difficult at all. It's not going to be difficult. So um so that's the situation. So we can still move on. Now let's examine this other topic where I've given
Sorry
you
to
four.
interrupt, Samuel. Candidates are saying that the screen is not visible.
Yes,
Can you
I'm
please try
talking about.
again and
I'm
share
not
it?
getting response from the students.
Can you please share
I'm
the
not.
screen again? Your screen is not visible.
It's not visible.
Yeah, please share again.
Okay, let me share again. I don't know. I thought it's sharing. Okay. It's not again. You need to make me the host again before I can share it from here.
You are already the host.
Okay, but it's not. It's not. Okay, it's giving me now. I've gotten it. Okay. So
I'm sorry, but it's still all blacked out.
it's still blackout.
Yeah.
But it's showing that it's sharing my end. I don't know why.
You can share this slide with me. I can present from my side if that helps.
Okay. Can you see it now? What about now? Can you see the screen?
No, it's still not showing
Can you
up.
see the screen now? It's still blank.
Yes, it's still blank.
I don't know why it's blank. I thought it should not be blank now. Is this blank now? If yes, maybe I should send the document to you so that maybe you can share it from your end.
Sure.
Though I'm on the second to the last slide now, where we're an interactive session where I expect them to drop their topics, but I'm not getting any response. Please send you. Okay, let me just send it directly to your mail now
Mm-hmm.
so that you can share it from your end. Okay. Okay. Advertised. I've sent it.
Yeah, I'll share once I get it.
Okay. So let me move on with my presentation. Hello, are you there?
Yeah. So I haven't received
Okay.
your mail yet. I'll share once you can continue. I'll share once I get the
Okay.
slide.
Okay, no problem. So now I was talking about the title. So I've given like 4 examples. So I want to give more examples now. So now you note that the examples that I gave, those examples, they have one independent variable, one dependent variable for easy assimilation and comprehension. But I said that when you want to carry out your DBA thesis, it has to be more than one independent variable or even more than one dependent variable. For example, you can consider the option, look at the one that I stated on trainee. I said trainee, I use the trainee and I use gender, as two independent variables. Then I use, one dependent variable. Now, you can look at more modern things, not just about those traditional things that we've been talking about all this while. Look at the area that has to do with, computer anxiety, or you have something to do with that has something to do with technology. you know Remember that when it is management sciences, you are not limited. You can go as far as areas that has to do with relationship, with work ethics, with organizational citizenship behavior, with turnover attention, with you have freedom, with leadership styles, with training. So there are so many areas that you can consider. It's not just limited to all those traditional areas like job performance, job satisfaction, job commitment. No, you are more. It is more than that. Nowadays, you discover that job involvement is becoming something else because most people are working remotely. So when you work remotely, how involved are you? In your job, in your organization. You understand? What about what happens to your commitment when you are working remotely? So even if you are going to work on variables such as commitment or satisfaction, you have to look at it in a new direction, in such a way that it will reflect the modernity, it will reflect the modern way of running organizations, modern way of carrying out research and all those stuff. So you have to put all those things into consideration because they are evolving. It's unlike before that you just go to literature. No, nowadays, so you look at areas that covers the modern job method. After COVID-19, things have never really been the same again. A lot of people were downsized. A lot of people, even when they ask them to stay at home, the organizations find out that most of the time, even people that they are paying, that is not even necessary. Running generator, I'll be running fuel, taking space and all those stuff. Everybody, were looking for ways to cut costs, and we found out that actually it worked for them. So people are working from home. A lot of people are taking on part-time job, and instead of you have a full-time job where you are going to You are going to be legally binded on the pension and all those stuff. People are taking in people on part-time basis, or even on flexible payment method and all those stuff. So when you look at that, there are so many things that are affected, that are really affected our way of thinking, our way of doing things in the past and all those stuff. So let your topic be weaved around most of these concepts. It makes the work easier. It makes the work fine. So I want to listen to your topic. It matters to me. So once I know your topic, it will guide me on how to, on how to do, on how to assess and to know whether you have actually comprehended what I've been teaching since. Thank you. Contributions. 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 So, in the absence of contribution, I think we can bring today's lecture to a close. So, except you have any question you want to ask, if you have any question you want to ask me, by now, you should be able to generate at least 10 research questions, I mean 10 research topics, considering the semantics that we have discussed, considering those design and all those. So, you should be able to generate all those ones. But before we go today, I want to give you the frame for thesis, for writing thesis. What are the frame? Naturally, we have 5 chapters. We have the chapter for introduction. We have the chapter for literature review, which is chapter 2. We have the chapter for method, which is chapter 3. Then we have a result, which is chapter 4. Then in our chapter 5, we have what is called conclusion, recommendation. We will have discussion, conclusion, recommendation. Then naturally we have references, and our referencing style here is AP, American Psychological Association. Then we have what is called appendix. So those are the formats for writing your thesis. But I want to say that, let me quickly give you what you have inside of each of them. For example, when you want to pick that chapter 1, which is introduction, what are the things that you need there? The first thing is under introduction, you have what is called background to the study. Background to the study. What is the background to the study? You tell us specifically. Tell us the background to the study. Then after the background to the study, you have what is called statement of problem. Statement of problem. Remember, it's not statement of the problem, it's statement of problem. So you state the problem specifically. Then after statement of problem, you have what is called research questions. After research questions, you have objective of the study. Then after the objective of the study, you have what is called significance of the study. Who needs the outcome of your research? That's significance of the study. Then after the significance of study, then you can tell us the scope of the study. What is the scope of the study? The scope answers 3 things. The scope in terms of the content, the scope in terms of the space, that is uh, the where you want to carry out the research work. You need to tell us the scope, that okay, maybe you want to limit it to only pilots who are in social department and so you tell us every details there. So that's scope. So when you are done with that, then you are done with your chapter 1. So then you move to the chapter 2. Chapter 2, which is literature review, that's the title. Basically, it has 3 major arms, 3 major subsections. The first subsection there is what is called conceptual framework. The concept that you want to study, that is conceptual framework, will give you an opportunity to discuss them immensely, to discuss them, each of them, very well, so you know it. Then when you are done with conceptual framework, then you move to what is called theoretical framework. Under the theoretical framework, you come up with your theories. Those theories are very important. You wrap up everything that you have in that chapter with theory. There must be theory that your work is based on. Remember when I discussed in the first class, I talked about Laplace's wheel of science. And Laplace Wheel of Science starts with a theory. So you start with a theory. After the theory, you move to the next one, which is after the theory, you move to what is called related empirical studies. The related empirical studies has a format of doing it. We are still going to treat all this in details, each of them. In fact, our next class will be that. We pick each of the chapter and we deal with it one after the other. But today I'm giving you overview of it. So, related empirical study, how do you do it? You review literature, original literature, you make it original, you personalize it, you do it in such a way that it will not show any traces of plagiarism. So if you're able to do that, you look for two literature that will support your objective. You look for two literature that will negate it. So if you're able, that means that if you raise four objectives, for example, you are sure that at least you can have minimum of 16 literature, well-rooted literature. So research hypothesis that based on the reviews that you have done, these are your hypotheses, you put it. Then you are done with that chapter two. Then you can put summary of your discussion of your literature. You can summarize it there. Is allowed. Then when you are done with that one, then you move to chapter three. The chapter three is a bit voluminous, though not voluminous, but it has a different subsection, plenty subsection. Number one subsection there is the title itself is method. After the method, you have what is called research design. What is your research design? You tell us in a very simple manner. After research design, you go to population. Then you tell us about the population you want to work on. After the population, then you have the sample size. So after the sample size, you have the sample. After the sample, you have the sampling technique. What is the sampling technique you want to use? You tell us. After the sampling technique, so you tell us instrumentation. You tell us the instrument you want to use. How do you want to? Are you using a questionnaire? You tell us. Are you not using a questionnaire? You are using another method. You tell us. You have to tell us the method. You have to tell us that is very, very important. The instrumentation. Under that instrumentation, if you are using a questionnaire, you must report the validity and the reliability, the psychometric properties. We are going to talk in details about all this in the next week next week. Then when you are done, I'll give you characteristic of each of them, each of the features. What is called procedure for data collection. How did you collect your data? How did you collect it? Did you consider ethical consideration? So many things you need to tell us. So once you are done with that, we move to the next one. Beyond the ethical consideration, you move to method of data analysis. How do you want to run your analysis? How do you want to run your data analysis? You tell us which statistics are you using. You tell us. Did you sieve your data at all? Your data, how did you ensure that your data pass homogeneity test, all those things? You have to tell us. So after that, you are done with chapter three. You move to chapter four. Your chapter four is your result. But note that if you want to carry out this study, you must note that the study can be, you have to submit a proposal. So if you are submitting a proposal, the proposal can stop in that chapter three. So it will be chapter one, chapter two, and chapter three. But the chapter three, because you have not carried out the research, so you'll be using future tense like I will. You understand? So that makes it easier for you. So and for the supervisor to be able to read through what you have done. So if you're able to do this, then you have achieved a lot. Then you have your result, which is in chapter four. Then in your chapter five, what you have is a conclusion. You have a discussion. Then you have a recommendation. So once you are done with that, you go to your references. You do your references in APA style. So once you are done with your referencing in APA style, the next thing you do is to display your what is it called, your appendix. So once you're able to do your appendix, you are done with the work. So that is it. Please, you have any question at all?
So
Any question?
I have
Any
received one
question?
example here. It says the research quote. It says what are the most effective communication strategies for increasing voter turnout among those under 30 living within city limits? Do you think that would be a good topic for someone to do it?
Come again, please.
It says, what are the most effective communication strategies for increasing voter turnout among those under 30 living within city limits?
No, that is not a good topic. When you look at that topic, you will see that the variables are not stated there at all. You understand? The variables are not stated. Then, two, when you are generating a topic, you should not use the word high or low or poor or fair. When you do that, you have taken a position. So the problem with the topic is number one, the topic is not a topic, it's a question. You only raise a question, what? You don't start a topic with what. When it is a PhD thesis, you don't say what. What cannot start. You cannot use the word what. Number two is that the variables are not identified, just like I mentioned last week and this week. You need to identify the variables. But when you don't identify the variables, it's look like a statement, just ordinary statement, because the variables are not stated. Which variable do you intend to measure? So then, because the variables are not there, it's difficult to know what the researcher or what the student wants to do. Because when you look at that topic is just like asking a question that what are you doing or what is it? So the variable itself, what are the variables? I can see communication and I see the word effective. You don't use the word effective communication when you are carrying out a research. If you use the word effective, already you have taken a position. You don't use a qualifier, whether it is effective or it is not effective. No, you use the word communication. For example, you can use the word like from that statement now. I know that the researcher is interested in communication. So communication is a good variable, but you need to quantify. You need to tell us what type of communication. Communication is very wide. So I'm not talking about effective communication. I'm talking about, okay, what is the communication you are talking? Is it an administrative communication, or is it an interpersonal communication? You understand? Or is it a verbal communication or a non-verbal communication? But you cannot use the word effective. When you are generating a topic, it is wrong. So that's why it's difficult to explain what that topic. That topic is not good at all. Then the topic starts with what? You must have noticed the semantics that I use in my explanation. None start with question. You don't start with question. Remember, I told you there's a difference between an article that you want to submit for publication and a thesis. An article that you want to use for publication, you can raise question is allowed. Like in one of my publications, I raise question and I use it as a topic. But you cannot do that when you are writing a thesis because that is not formal. So a thesis must be formal. Everything about it must be conventional. There's a way of doing it, so you have to follow that way. You understand? So please, do you get my explanation?
I hope this helps the candidate. The explanation very well
Oh,
explained. Thank you.
okay. Thank you, sir. So do we have any other question?
No, this was the only question that we got.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. That means we are done for today, please.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm
Thank you.
grateful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Do have a wonderful day. Thank
You
you.
too. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye.